The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. Today is Monday. It is 4/20. Ladies and gentlemen, it is for April 20th, 2020. We'll talk about all of that in the Patrons Only episode after the music. Let's begin. This is not a laughing matter, even though we have to laugh for not crying at the absurdity of it all, being led by the moron in chief, Donald Trump, during the middle of a pandemic has led to it's led to this. U.S. has confirmed 759,000 total cases confirmed, and those are only the people who have been tested for the coronavirus, with 40,000, just over 40,000 deaths so far, and those are only people who have been confirmed to have died of the coronavirus. Many people are dying, and if they are not being tested in Florida, they are not being considered to, they're not being counted in the COVID fatality. Globally, 2.4 million people have contracted the virus, confirmed. Again, those are people who have tested, and 166,000 have passed away. There's a lot to cover today, and it really centers around the absurdity of all of this. Everything that we see happening around us is peak ridiculous. I mean, you could not write a fiction story any more ridiculous. Like if someone presented the narrative that we're living under in 2020 to a publisher, they would say that this was a little too on the nose and not very creative. But here we are living in the timeline where we're facing a pandemic under the leadership of Donald Trump, he is the leader, not just because of him, but because of the absurdity of Republicans, most certainly the absurdity of Republicans and conservatives, but also the absurdity of the Democratic Party. I'm going to take a look at two different ads. The Joe Biden ad, I'll take a look at that after the Patron party, along with the ad that Donald Trump just tweeted this morning. I don't know if it's an official campaign ad. The image is kind of blurry, so something tells me it may be a fan-made advertisement, but Donald Trump tweeted it out, and let's see. I just want to check. In less than 2 hours, it has gotten 3.6 million views. So in a few minutes, it's going to have more views than Joe Biden's advertisement. I will deal with those after the Patron party because it shows you the absurdity of the Democratic Party, along with their incapability of handling the situation, handling the current, what we're going through, right? It's like the absurdity of it all is that we have the absolute worst person in the White House that we could possibly imagine having during the middle of a pandemic, or rather at the beginning of a pandemic. But we also have the absolute worst opposition in the form of the Democratic Party, where there is no checks and balances. There are no checks and balances. There's no accountability. And even in terms of like social media, they're just like Donald Trump. He's sailing free from any type of meaningful opposition. And he happens to be the leader of a party of people who would go out this weekend and quote unquote protest in order to become to liberate. Did I discuss that on Friday? The liberation tweets. I don't think I discussed it on this. Maybe. I know I talked about it with Sam Cedar. But anyway, in the midst of a pandemic, Donald Trump's followers are so committed to their absurdity that they went out to protest across the country, and they protested to open America back up at the beginning of a pandemic. And now, because of these hundreds of people who have gone out to protest, I'll play some audio for you so you could hear it and you can hear the absurdity of it all. We're going to see another spike. It's inevitable. COVID-19 is, according to scientists, it is extremely efficient in spreading. It is extremely efficient And these morons, including Alex Jones from InfoWars, decided to go out and protest because, as one sign said, social distancing is communism. So we're surrounded by nothing but absurdity. And we also are surrounded by absurdity on the left. But I don't know if I really want to dig into that too much. I've been ignoring a lot of the inter-left squabbles that have been taking place over the weekend. But it's just like all around us, man. There's just ignorance all around us in the face of a global pandemic where now nearly 41,000 Americans have died. And there's literally nothing that's happening that's not going to make the situation worse, except for the willingness of people to self-quarantine. That's it. I think the way we survive this is because people have taken it upon themselves to say, absolutely not. We are staying home. That's the only thing. Like, if we were waiting on governors across this country to give us a mandatory stay-at-home order, it wasn't going to come in most of the states because most of the states are red states and Republican governors are refusing to do so. I mean, there's 26 Republican states, 24 Democratic states, but still, that was enough. If we were waiting on those 26 states to do so, it wasn't going to happen. Not all of them. And so it really took, and I was talking with some friends, I'll talk about this in the Patrons episode as well. I was talking to some friends from Mississippi, and they took it upon themselves to self-quarantine. So the only silver lining, the only thing that gives me any hope is that a good percent, I don't know what percentage, but everybody in my world, and we who talked about this? Professor Sinkowitz talked about this Thursday with his guest, and they were talking about how you make a observation based on your whole world. What is your whole world is not actually the whole world, right? But we could tell by the economic despair, by how many businesses are closing, how many airlines, like the travel. I think travel is down 96%, right? Airline travel. So we are self-quarantining in this country. I don't know. I haven't seen any metrics as to what percentage are self-quarantining, but we have been self-quarantining on our own enough to potentially flatten the curve. And yet, over the weekend, these morons across the country, these Republicans, these conservatives, have gone out and exposed themselves to the coronavirus in the name of protesting to liberate their states from economic shutdown. They're crying to reopen America. The thing is, the absurdity of it all, I keep saying absurd because I don't have it. I mean, I'm sure I could get a thesaurus, but I think it's the most appropriate word. The absurd thing about this is that even if governors say we are open for business, you are not going to compel people to leave their homes who understand what's really going on. To put into context, the Church of God in Christ. I didn't grow up Church of God in Christ, but I did grow up Church of God in Christ adjacent. It is a huge African American denomination. And across the country, it's the largest denomination in black churches. Okay. 31 bishops and pastors have died of COVID-19 in that one denomination alone. Okay. So people are starting to get the message that this thing is extremely deadly. And if they did not quarantine before, they're starting to quarantine now. And you're not going to get them to leave their homes after they have seen how this virus has ravaged our communities. And I say that exactly that way because the government will never be able to compel the people to leave their homes and to participate in this system. Now, what we saw over the weekend, there's evidence to show, not just suggest, but to show that the protesters that we saw this weekend were Astroturf protesters funded by Betsy DeVos's family. Betsy DeVos is the Secretary of Education for Donald Trump. But more importantly than that position, she is an heiress, billionaire. Collectively, her family is worth billions of dollars, and they have funded this Astroturf movement, not really for the purposes of getting the government to open back up again, because they understand the fundamental principle that you are not going to be able to force people out of their homes into the streets to participate at levels that would bring the economy back. They know that's a lost cause because you cannot compel our participation. You cannot put a gun to someone's head and tell them to go out and consume at the same levels they used to consume at. So they know that's not the goal. So what then is the goal? The goal is really to just gain power in these states, to win the governor seats in these states. And so Republican and conservative billionaires are pouring money into active, quote unquote, activists to go out there and put their lives on the line. These morons are going out there and doing it. All not to open the government again, not to open the economy, because that's not going to happen until we have a vaccine. But they're doing it so that they can foment some type of resistance to these governors, these Democratic governors, so that they can get power. That's ultimately what it is. Listen to a couple of clips of audio here.
States with stay-at-home protests that have been planned over the weekend. You had California, San Clemente, San Diego, Miami had protests, Illinois, inside Illinois. You had Springfield and Indiana, Indianapolis had protests. You get the idea. Today they're going to be protests in Arizona, California, Florida, Maine, Maryland, Missouri, parts of New York State, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee. And what I think is happening is if you're sitting there in Buffalo or Syracuse and you're saying there's no problem here and I can't get my job and my company's is withering away, and then you look at New York City, who has a totally different thing. It's up to, I think, these governors and mayors to get together and say, I got my area. All right, you worry about this, and we'll kind of give an idea of where the city people are going, and we'll stay on top of it. Plus, the American people have demonstrated this thing called responsibility.
The hell they have. I mean, if you saw the videos, you have to see the videos. There's really no meaningful audio that came out of this weekend's protest. But if you see the visual, you will see that these people were gathered without any masks. I think you may have had one mask per 200 people out there. And they were congregated very tightly, touching each other, yelling and shouting and screaming. I mean, there's literally no way that in 2 weeks, we don't start getting news reports of spikes in these cities and in these states. So to claim that the American people have been responsible, in fact, they have been highly irresponsible, and the irresponsibleness has been funded by the DeVos family. Jeremy Scahill of The Intercept, this is what he tweeted over the weekend. He said the DeVos and Prince families have a long record of financing the most dangerous right-wing extremist individuals and causes in the country. They gave the seed money to the radical religious right, poured money into anti-choice groups, and are funding the current coronavirus, quote unquote, protests. They are Astroturf masters. They financed the Michigan Prayer Network, which consisted of quote unquote prayer warriors assigned to nearly every legislator in the state to circumvent church lobbying bans by asking legislators to quote unquote pray for issues like school choice against gay rights. The protests versus Democratic governors include ordinary people, but make no mistake, they are being used by powerful extreme right interests, similar tactic to the RNC quote unquote protests in Florida during the 2000 election debacle. So again, we have Republican conservative billionaires funding groups, radical groups whose agenda is to undermine the sitting governors of those various states for the purposes not of opening up the country, not of opening up their state, but for the purposes of getting them out of power so that they can get more power on the state level. That's the strategy. And if people have to die in the process, so be it. And we have no opposition whatsoever from Democrats. Democrats are going on late night talking about their ice cream. Andrew Cuomo just tweeted out a picture of him sitting at his luxurious table. From my perspective, I know some of you are like, oh, it wasn't that luxurious. Yeah, but talk to working class families. Andrew Cuomo sitting at the table showing how wealthy his family is and his house, how luxurious his house is. Talking about this is how the Cuomos have dinner. We have no opposition against the most dangerous group of Republicans we have ever faced in our lifetimes. And yes, every single Republican from Donald Trump down to your local elected official needs to be removed from power. But there's nothing that the Democratic Party is doing right now that's actually going to accomplish that. All right, there's a lot to talk about. And we'll talk about the rest of it after this patron party. Stay tuned.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
And here we go. Very special welcome and thank you to all of our newest patrons without whom this show is not possible. Very special welcome to John Freese. Thank you for becoming a patron. Andrew Lathrop. Thank you. I know I pronounced that wrong. Thank you for becoming a patron. Gabriel Munoz. Thank you for becoming a patron. Kevin V. I'm not even going to try it, Kevin, but thank you so much for becoming a patron. Danielle Harriman, thank you for becoming a patron. Joey Cronin, thank you for becoming a patron. Jill Trufant, thank you for becoming a patron. Alex Edwards, thank you for becoming a patron. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you get twice the content without any of the advertisements like you're going to hear right here. Yep. Okay. Welcome back. All right. Come on. I get irritated when my music goes like 2 seconds too long, even though I have full control over the music. It's ridiculous, but I digress. Also, I want to thank the patrons who have increased their pledges. Many of you are still increasing your pledge. Some of you are increasing it by $1. Some of you are doubling your pledges. So thank you so much for supporting the show. I know these are difficult times for everybody. And economic situations have changed tremendously. What I am working on is, it's a possibility that, I'm going to add a new system on top of Patreon. That way, members who have been members and patrons for a long time, that can't afford to be patrons right now, I want to make sure that you can still get access to this. So I'm working out the details with the guy who's building the infrastructure, and I can't give you an ETA on when that will be rolled out. But the primary goal of it is to be able to grandfather in people who may have fallen on hard times. And listen, this isn't going to be means tested, right? It's if you were a patron at one time and you're no longer a patron, you'll be able to get access to this. Because just on GP, you rocked with me when you had funds and when the economy was good. So I'm going to rock with you when the economy is bad. So that's coming up soon. Let's shift gears. I want to talk about a tale of two ads. Both have been quite the controversy over the weekend for totally different reasons. But I think if you juxtapose the two ads by each other, it's not going to work that well via audio. So I'm going to do a lot of description for the second ad, which is the ad from Donald Trump. But the first ad from Joe Biden, you can get the gist of it just by listening. Let's take a listen in.
He failed to act. So now Trump and his allies are launching negative attacks against Joe Biden to hide the truth. Here are the facts. Joe Biden warned the nation in January that Trump had left us unprepared for a pandemic. Then, Biden told Trump he should insist on having American health experts on the ground in China.
I would be on the phone with China and making it clear, we are going to need to be in your country. You have to be open. You have to be clear. We have to know what's going on.
But Trump rolled over for the Chinese. He took their word for it.
The president tweeted, China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency.
China, I spoke with President Xi, and they're working very, very hard, and I think it's going to all work out fine.
Trump praised the Chinese 15 times in January and February as the coronavirus spread across the world.
It's a tough situation. I think they're doing a very good job.
Are you concerned about its potential impact on the global economy?
I think that China will do a very good job.
Trump never got a CDC team on the ground in China. And the travel ban he brags about? Trump let in 40,000 travelers from China into America after he signed it. Not exactly airtight. Look around. 22 million Americans are out of work, and we have more officially reported cases and deaths than any other country. Donald Trump left this country unprepared and unprotected for the worst public health and economic crisis in our lifetime. And now we're paying the price. All the negative ads in the world can't change the truth.
All right. Everybody's celebrating this like this is the greatest advertisement to ever come out. Like everyone's like, this ad is so good. This ad is so good. I mean, friends of mine with other shows, some other commentators, political consultants, like, this is a great ad, man. This is the way you do it. And quite honestly, can I tell you, I know you glossed over somewhere in the middle of that ad because I glossed over too, and I do this shit for a living. Notwithstanding the fact that we are in a post-fact society, where entertainment is hypercritical, and that's not a thing to brag about. It's just the reality. That's one of the reasons we all started to gloss over. But embedded in that is really Joe Biden playing on a nationalistic as well as racist trope. I mean, the language and the tone towards China, rolled over for China. Like, what are we really doing here, Joe? Like, I mean, it's not up to me to be offended by it or not. Like, you have to, let's talk to some Asian Americans who have been the recipients of this xenophobia, right? They have been on the receiving end of attacks because of Donald Trump labeling it the Chinese virus, right? So let's not pretend as though there's no responsibility in terms of our language. The nationalism is a problem by itself. The racism that it's going to engender here in this country is another problem. And you can't out racist Donald Trump. Why would you even try? So there's plenty of problems. One thing I'm not above, though, obviously, if you listen to my show any amount of time, I am not above criticizing China for what they are responsible for. I'm not going to. And this is where it gets kind of pathetic because it really dissolves into kind of an argument over, on the left, whether or not China is actually a socialist state or is it a capitalist state? And you have all these different positions. I don't really care about any of that shit right now. I'll leave that to you all to argue over. But what I will say is that there are real peoples whose lives have been attacked because they are of Asian descent. And the president of the United States has been playing into these dangerous tropes. And now this advertisement is doing the same thing when the ad could have been done without that line. Can we agree? Like whether or not you feel that this is too nationalistic or racist, that I'm not going to argue that at this point because I just don't have the energy to put if you can't see it for yourself, I don't know what to tell you. But you could at least say that this ad would have been just as boring as it currently is if they have taken that line out. It wouldn't have been more boring. That line about rolled over for China didn't make the ad better. It's unnecessary. Compared to this very effective 15-second advertisement from Donald Trump. You can't see it, so I have to set it up. Here it is. You got 4 black guys sitting on a couch in a very nice home watching some sporting event, and then a commercial comes in and they're upset because, oh, no, not another commercial. The commercial is nothing but Joe Biden's own words. Now, one of the 4 characters sitting on the desk, sitting on the couch at this home, right? I have to set it up because you're not going to be able to see it. I'll let you hear it. But there are 4 black guys sitting on a couch watching a sporting event at their home. I don't know if it's basketball or football. I don't know, but let's just say basketball. They're watching a basketball game at home. And they are interrupted by a Joe Biden commercial. The Joe Biden commercial is nothing more than Joe Biden's own words. And because of the cringe, the sheer magnitude of the cringe, one black guy after the other looks at the other with the look of, you gotta be kidding me. And then they all look at the last black guy who happens to be the face of Barack Obama superimposed on another black guy. You know how we do it when we want to make a meme of somebody. We snatch their head off of a video and we place it, we use not Photoshop, but we use After Effects and we put it there, right? So it's not really Barack Obama, and you can clearly tell they're not trying to make you think it's Barack Obama. But they look at this last guy who happens to be Barack Obama, and he's like, what? You're not going to get the effect of it here, but go watch it for yourself. I'm going to play it, and then I'll give you my commentary on it.
Oh, no. Not another commercial.
The kid used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I love kids jumping on my lap.
Bro, you gotta see the video. You've got to see the video. And I'm sorry. Democrats are not prepared to take this on. You all have given Donald Trump the easiest. Look. This is going to be an easier slam dunk, alley-oop and slam dunk than the one I tossed to Elizabeth Warren when she slam dunked on Michael Bloomberg. It's going to be infinitely easier. Like, okay, let's just compare on the metrics. We're going to compare on every level because I need you to understand why Joe Biden is going to lose. And I'm not saying this because I want him to lose. We got to get rid of Donald Trump. We have to get rid of Donald Trump because he is putting our lives in danger. But Donald Trump video, he just tweeted it out 3 hours ago. It has 4.6 million views, 168,000 likes, and about 50,000 retweets in 3 hours. Now, I know metrics aren't everything, but if we go to Joe Biden's, the same ad that I just played for you from Joe Biden, the one that everyone is like, oh, this video is so good. This ad is so effective. And you compare, Joe Biden has 2.2 million views since the 18th. What was that? Saturday. He has 2.2 million views since Saturday, 82,000 likes and 30,000 retweets. Donald Trump got more in 3 hours than this guy got in 3 days. Way more. Okay, so that's just the metrics. The messaging. Okay? Democrats, you do not understand. You've given Donald Trump the exact type of fodder that he needs to do this for the next 7 months while he's sitting on the toilet, his golden toilet. I mean, this is going to be so easy for him because Joe Biden is full of nothing but these types of stupidity, these stupid moments. The substance of it. There is no substance there. And that's the thing that Democrats don't understand. There doesn't have to be any substance there. All he has to do is say, look at this moron. Would you look at this moron? Would you look at how, what the hell is he talking about? I'm working on my Donald Trump impersonation. What is this? Is this? But really, he's talking about his hairy legs and kids used to like to wipe his legs and got cockroaches. I know about roaches. Seriously. There does not have to be any substance whatsoever. Why? Because we are in a post-fact America. We are well past the Rubicon. We are well past the days where there's any type of decorum and protocol and civility. If you think you could beat Donald Trump with civility, if you think you could shame Donald Trump into an electoral defeat, you are going to contribute to getting thousands more people killed because Donald Trump will get reelected. Democrats are not prepared for this fight, and we need them to be. Because people's lives literally depend on it. I can only laugh so long at them because then I realize in our laughing, we are all going to be suffering because of their poor leadership. Because of the fecklessness of the Democratic Party, all of us are going to suffer. And while it is fun to laugh at the Schadenfreude, 2 seconds later, you realize I'm in this country too, and the pandemic is going to come to our doorsteps if we're not careful because of the leadership of Donald Trump. So please understand when I say we got to get rid of Donald Trump, but you fools, you morons, have given him the exact candidate he needs to be able to win without putting up any effort whatsoever. Republicans took in $24 million last month. $24 million last month in the middle of the nation quarantining. $24 million that they're going to be able to, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. They're going to raise so much more money because you've seen... They went out this weekend to protest without masks, all for the purposes of, one, some true believers who are going to die because they're dummies, but then two, because of organizations pouring money into this Astroturf movement in order to seize power. And I bring that up in the context of this because that's the level of commitment that Republicans have to their agenda. There's nobody that they're not willing to let die. They will even fund their deaths. Like the DeVos family and all these Astroturf organizations are funding the death of their own supporters, that their supporters are going to die for a cause, which is to undermine the Democratic Party movement. And this is the same energy that they are bringing to the conversation with Donald Trump. And Democrats, you're just not prepared. You're not prepared, and society, humanity needed you to be prepared, but instead you coalesced around Corn Pop and his hairy legs. You know, we hold these truths to be, you know, the thing. This is who you've entrusted the future of humanity to. Shame on you. And I hope that if and when you all lose, because I don't see a path forward for him to win, not when Donald Trump can suppress the vote just by, listen, I got to keep going on this. The other side of it is that Donald Trump has been targeting black people. He has been pouring money into the black community to get the black vote. And this commercial is elegantly done. Previous attempts to reach to black people from the Republican Party has failed miserably. I ought to play, I guess this is going to be the whole public show because I'm running out of time. I'm going to play a clip of Herman Cain's commercial from about 8 years ago. This was a black Republican trying to do outreach to black people, and it was so cringeworthy that you couldn't help but laugh and say, Republicans will never get the black vote. And then I'm going to play again, or you ought to go to Twitter and look at this video for yourself, and I want you to see how precisely tuned this video is to resonate with black people because of the absurdity of Joe Biden and because it represents the dozens like you really are going. I mean, they really are looking over at Obama like, come get your boy. And it's done so efficiently, so elegantly. When I say elegantly, I mean in like the, you know what the I mean. Take a listen to the progression. Look at how Republicans have evolved on their messaging in the black community. Here's Herman Cain's commercial from 2011. He's a black conservative trying to do black outreach in 2011. And then we're going to go back and play the ad from just this morning.
Paid for by America's PAC.
The night's still young. Come on, let's head to the river and try out the slots.
Nah, I got to get home. I promised Kathleen I'd help the kids with their homework.
You know, the Army really changed you.
War does that. It makes you value what you're fighting for.
So I suppose you want me to vote Republican, like you and your soldier buddies.
Not at all. You've got no reason to.
How's that?
Well, you don't work for a living, so what do you care about keeping taxes low?
Hey, that's cold.
You cheat on your wife, so why would you want an amendment to protect marriage?
Hey, a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do.
And I know you're not going to enlist to defend your country.
Not everyone's as slow as you are, bro.
And if you make a little mistake with one of your hoes, you'll want to dispose of that problem too sweet, no questions asked.
No, now that's too cold. I don't snuff my own seed.
Huh? Really? Well, maybe you do have a reason to vote Republican.
I'm laughing because if I ever got my hands on that mother boy, I swear on God, like that was Republican outreach. That's how Republicans reached out to black people. And that's why they got like they used to get like 8% of the black vote. I mean, you're going to always have some coontastic people who buy into these horribly racist tropes. I don't care that it came from a black man. It capitalized on every single racist trope that ever existed. Now, look at how they have evolved.
Not another commercial.
The kid used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I love kids jumping on my lap.
What? No, the problem is for Democrats is that this is exactly how 4 black dudes sitting on a couch and one of us are responsible for something as cringeworthy as Joe Biden, this is exactly how we would do. You can't see it. You got to go. I know it's a podcast. I'll get the video show up eventually. Right. But when I tell you, it has Democrats are not ready for this. Democrats are not ready for this. And the only thing the Democrats have left to do is that they're going to attack all of the black people for whom this resonates. And I'm sorry, you have to understand, there's a whole lot of people, not just black people, who really don't give a damn about any of this political. Listen, we were dying before coronavirus. There are a lot of black people who were struggling before coronavirus, right? We were struggling before Donald Trump got into office. And so life for us has already been screwed up. And now all we have is someone who's entertaining the hell out of us as Rome burns. So you can't look at the people who are going to see this and be like, yeah, I like it actually because it gives the middle finger to the establishment. You think your path to victory is going to be to attack the people with whom this resonates? No. You're going to lose a large percentage, like 15% of black men voted for Donald Trump in 2016. I mean, I think they're all assholes, but it's not up to me. It's about how many people you're going to reach. I think they're all idiots. And we could call them coons. We could say they're shucking and jiving, stepping and fetching. And I believe all of that. They are all of that. But that does not change the fact that we have, no, not me, not we, y'all, no, not y'all, not my listeners, but Democrats have given, what's his man name in the office, Donald Trump, the ammunition he needs to just clown Joe Biden from here until November. And if it doesn't convert more people to vote for Donald Trump, it most certainly is going to depress the vote and people are going to stay home. Congratulations, Democrats. You played yourself. All right, that's it for the public show. Patrons, stay tuned. After this music, the party continues. Everyone else, go to patreon.com/the BPD show to get twice the content, none of the ads. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.